In your browser, go to mindeskvr.com, and at the top you'll see Trial. Click on that, and from there you'll have a login or a register. Clicking on Register and filling in your email and password, and of course confirm the password again underneath there. Next, click on the Register, and from there you're ready to log in. So using the same email and password, go ahead and log in. From there, you're going to get prompted by a page to fill out your information. So first name, last name, what you're going to do with Mindesk, so design, where you're at, so United States for me, and basically your title. This just helps us understand who's using it and what they need it for and how to optimize the software. It also helps us to know what kind of hardware you're using, so in this case we'll be using ACC Vibe. Don't forget to click on the license agreement and submit. From there you'll see a download link that brings you to Food for Rhino, showing you Mindesk. Click on the green download button, and at the bottom left you'll see plugin download exe file. Once you launch it, finish the download requirements, and from there launch Rhino. At the top right you'll see a new tab called Mindesk. Navigate to login and enter your email and password, and you should be ready to start using Mindesk. A successful notification should pop up, and now you're ready to launch the plugin. So go back to Mindesk tab, go to Start VR, and start your 30-day trial. Hit OK, and it should pop up within a few seconds. First off, we need to go ahead and launch Steam. So on the control panel, type in Steam, launch the app. Make sure your headset is connected. Once it launches, there's a little button at the top right called VR. Click that. This starts the VR sensors and the controllers. You'll see at the bottom the VR will pop up as well as a little window. If you see the controllers are gray, make sure you power them on. Next, we're going to open up the Rhino file we want to work in. In this case, I want to be using Grasshopper directly. So once I launch Rhino, I'm going to the command line and type in Grasshopper. This new feature of Mindesk allows you to parametrically design as you move things around in real time. I set up a simple definition that has the Mindesk plugin at the end. We want to keep this inactive for now. From there, I'm going to set up my desktop so I can have the Rhino window open, the Grasshopper window open, and also the Mindesk window open. Now we're ready to launch the Mindesk plugin. So at the top, under the Mindesk tab, pull that down and start VR. Give this about 10 seconds to start up. At first it'll be gray, and then the background should turn blue. Once you see your model, set up the screen so that you can see all three windows. Even though you will have the headset on and not able to see what's going on the screen, this is very helpful when you're collaborating, and also if you take off the headset. Before we activate the Mindesk plugin, we want to go ahead and check our Grasshopper to make sure we have everything in the right place. So it's basically a simple loft that's broken into a triangulated surface and then is activated by the Mindesk. Once you have the headset on, you can right click and hit enabled to turn on the geometry, and you'll notice on the left immediately you see the Mindesk. So pulling the model closer to me, I'm going to grab one of the curves using the move tool, and you will see it parametrically update as I manipulate the model. So I move it up, triangulation surface comes up. The Grasshopper can also be adjusted in real time, and the person using the VR headset will see the updates, which is a nice way to collaborate with each other. The Mindesk to Grasshopper also works with manipulating the actual geometry, not just moving it. So in this case, I'm going to turn on the curve points and move the last point of the curve over, and you will see the update in the surface. Some users are more comfortable with flipping the controls. Using the quick key I, you can flip the controllers. At the bottom you can notice they're flipping as I hit I. Another quick key is M, which will allow you to go from third person to first person perspective. This is especially helpful when you're recording augmented reality sessions. Lastly, F11 gives you a full screen interface, which is great for screen captures. Once you launch into the plugin, you should be able to see the controllers right out in front of you. Move them around and take a look at all the buttons. To pan, press and hold either inside button using your middle finger and see how the model moves around. To zoom into the model, begin grabbing near the model and pulling toward yourself like you're pulling a rope. By holding down both side buttons at the same time and turning your hands like a steering wheel, you'll be able to rotate around the model. Similarly, to scale the size of the model, simply hold down both side buttons and pull your hands apart. Notice the scale below will live update. Once you find the scale you're comfortable with, you'll find the model easy to navigate. By selecting and holding the trigger finger, you can hover over the geometry and select all. You can start to deselect geometry by holding the left trigger finger and clicking on the pieces you don't want selected. If you hold down and hover over the whole thing, you can deselect everything. Similarly, if you halfway hold the trigger and hover over geometry, it'll give you a preview of what you're about to select. The left trigger acts like the control button in Rhino, so by clicking and holding the left trigger and selecting other pieces, you can select and deselect more objects. Once you select a command, use your right thumb to reactivate the command, and notice the icon on the right that will be in black will turn to white. This way you're constantly in selection mode and don't have to go into your tool palette as often. In this case, I'll select this piece with the trigger, and also using the same trigger, I will drag it over, not having to use any move command, similar to in Rhino. Also, I can click and hold the left trigger while I select this piece and drag it over, copying it. Now going back to my tool palette, I'll select rotate, and using the thumb pad, I'll activate the command, grab the first end, and then rotate it to the right. To copy with precision, I'll go back into my tool palette, grab copy, and aim for the bottom right corner. That way I know I can snap from that piece to that piece. If you hold down the right thumb pad in the middle of pulling it in that axis, it will lock that axis, allowing you to pull it back and forth, knowing it does not leave the axis. You can use this in combination with snaps, like the middle for example, allowing the snappy draggy feature of Rhino to be activated here. So for example, I'll grab this piece, begin moving it in the green axes, and once I lock it, I'm able to snap to the center because my middle snap is on. This is very useful when you need objects to line up to the center or end pieces. The example we're using in this case is Legos, and you can see how useful it is to be able to snap to the center piece when moving over this block so it lines up with the next one. Once you launch the plugin, select the spline command and turn on the end snap, which we'll cover later in the tutorials. Using your trigger finger, draw an S-like shape vertically. Magnetic guides allow you to keep the line planar. Notice the blue and red guides as you're clicking through. Next, let's turn on the knots and adjust the spline to a shape that we'd like to revolve around. By clicking the point and selecting the move command, you can start to adjust the spline. Try to keep the line in plane as well. But after you've adjusted the knots, twist around and make sure the line is still planar. Next, we're going to look at the revolve command. So select the end point, and with the other hand, while still holding that point, move your arm around in a circle, creating a vase-like shape. Okay, now we're going to try a similar thing using a different command. The poly command allows you to create straight lines of which we can try revolving. So again, start clicking through a zigzag-like shape, trying to make sure to keep everything planar. Once you're finished with that, we can go ahead and adjust the points using the knot tool. Move the points in profile, making sure to keep everything planar. Once you're happy with your profile, we'll go find the same revolve tool and grab the profile. Select the end point, hold it down, and revolve with your other hand until you see a 360-degree surface. Orbit around the model so you get a chance to see all sides of what you just modeled. And that's it. Once you launch the app, select the spline tool and create a flat, closed loop. Next, turn on the points and select a few of them that we're going to bring up vertically to create a three-dimensional line. Make sure you stay in line with the Z or blue axes. The first command we're going to learn is patch, which enables you to create a surface within a curve. The next tool is loft. So using the same spline tool as before, go ahead and draw a closed loop that is flat on the XY plane. The magnetic handles will allow you to make sure it's planar. Once you have that closed loop, check underneath to make sure it's flat. Use the copy command to make 3 versions of this. So copying it once and twice in the Z direction. Now, using the knots commands, we'll be able to shrink the central loop so that it is slightly different in overall form as the other two, creating a perfect loft condition. There. Now once I've deselected the points, I scroll around to see what the curves look like, and I go ahead and click all 3 curves in the order of which I want to loft them. And then next I'm going to zoom in and perform the offset command, which basically gives the thickness and volume to that lofted surface. Notice the little arrow at the bottom right showing you the direction and the amount of which it's offsetting. Now I'll go ahead and deselect, and then just kind of look around the model, from underneath and above. So next we're going to make a polygon using the poly tool, which we're going to do our last command, which will be to extrude a curve, in this case a pentagon. So open up the tool palette, and at the top you'll see extrude, select the curve, and bring it up in the Z direction. If the closed curve is flat, it will create a solid extrusion. So again, I'm going to try copying the same curve down and then extruding downwards, creating another solid. This starts to give you the sense of how fast you can begin modeling and creating solids using the same curves and similar commands. Now, if you use a curve that is not planar, like the curve that we used for this patch command, you'll notice when you extrude it, it becomes a wall or a surface and not a solid. So that basically wraps up the design tools from Mindesk. I'm going to start off with making a box, and from there I'm going to use the command which is array, which allows me to copy a series of the same geometry. So first I select it, then drag using the trigger finger and holding how many pieces I would want, in this case 5. I can also do it in any direction, so in this case it would be in the Z direction, and I want to have 4. Let go when you're done with the 4th one. Lastly, I'm going to do one that's in diagonal, so you can see at a 45. You can also do the same amount of copies. In this case, they're overlapping. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect that first piece. And now using the dimension tool, I can confirm the size in between and the spacing. I'll make sure my end snaps are on so I can grab the corners, and boom, you can see the dimension show up immediately. And it stays there for you to reference. I can also do this in the vertical direction between 2 pieces. And again, you'll see that in the vertical. Additionally, you can dimension diagonally, and in this case you're going to get 3 dimensions that show up. The X, the Y, and of course the diagonal that you are looking for. So let's go ahead and delete a few of these just to show you how you can start to design with array but not be constricted to it. In fact, I want to change my C-plane to match the diagonals here, so instead of having the XY like this, I want to have the XY in this direction. So using the reference system command, I can select the bottom corner of the box, holding, I rotate the grid to the other corner of the same box in the diagonal, and notice the grid is now perfectly in the 45 diagonal I started with. So making new geometry, like a box in this case, will now be referenced to this new adjusted grid. Similar to other commands like rotate, for example, so we can go ahead and select this box. And using my left cursor, I select the base point, and my right cursor, I bring up the rotation, and notice that it's on the XY of the new grid. I can also scale in the same grid system from left to right, and there we are. In fact, you can also adjust the reference plane to be at a diagonal, not just a rotation in the vertical. So using the same command again, I grab the base, rotate up to the box, and now the grid will be in the same reference as this new box that I've rotated. So making sure that my near surface snap is on, any new geometry like the cylinder or a box lets me freely model on that same C-plane without any issues. For starters, let's select a polyline and create a trapezoidal shape. To close the curve, you will notice a small purple cone show up as you hover over that point. This is a snap. This is what we'll be learning about today, all the snaps. So making sure that the trapezoid is flat, we are next going to go to the end snap. Using a box, let's snap to the bottom left corner and build a shape that looks like a small building on a city block. This time and the rest of the snaps, you will notice the cone is now yellow and not purple. So switching to the near snap, we're going to hover over this line and find on that line where we want to make the next building. The following snap I want to cover is a new feature called near surface. This allows you to actually click on any part of a surface. This feature is only found in Mindesk, not even in Rhino. So let's go ahead and build another box on top of that, like a little penthouse. The following snap is going to be the midpoint snap. This allows you to click at the center of any object. This can be very helpful when modeling for speed. So using that same point, let's make another building. Another similar snap is the perpendicular snap. This is really helpful when you have geometry that is not all rectilinear. So if we go ahead and spin around to the back side of the block, and also turning on the near snap for our convenience, we can go ahead and click a shape that is perpendicular to the angled shape. Notice this is 90 degrees right here. Okay, so let's make a line between this point intersection and this point intersection. Next, I'll make a cone at the midpoint of this line, like a sculpture, so that I can illustrate the tangent snap, which is next. The tangent snap will allow you to click the outer edge of a circle from another point. In this particular example, I'm going to turn off my near snap so that I know I'm snapping to the tangent, like right there, and then on the other side, similarly from there to the outer edge. It's really important to manage the snaps that are on so that you're not snapping to things that you don't know you're snapping to. You can do this by re-clicking the same teal highlighted snaps. Next, we're going to look at Smart Track, which is at the bottom right. This feature allows you to create a projected line as a guide for you to model curves. In this case, I'll make an extra small little block over here. Again, this can be very helpful when you're modeling things that are not very rectilinear. The last feature of the precision tools is the 3D grid. This is similar to Grid Snap in Rhino, except in 3 dimensions. This also is only available in Mindesk and not in Rhino. So to show off those 2 unique commands, I'm going ahead and patch this little block to make a flat surface, as well as the larger block, and create 2 more buildings on each site using the 3D grid as a guide, making sure my near surface snap is on. I'm able to click anywhere on the surface and incrementally make a box with the exact dimensions of whatever my grid is set at. This can be very helpful for quick planning exercises. So again, click on the surface and watch the box grow incrementally. Using this existing portico model, I want to create a very simple column using only a box. I want to make sure my mid, my near and my end snaps are on. I'm also going to demonstrate 3 different ways to create a box. One with 3 points, one with 2 points, and one just using 1 point. So starting off by clicking on the surface using my near surface snap, I'm going to create an XYZ plane, bring up the Z, and create that box. And using my thumb pad to reactivate the same box, I'm going to click the bottom left box corner and then the top right box corner. Again, using my thumb pad to reactivate the box and using the snappy draggy feature, I'm going to align with the underside of the column top. After loosely modeling those 3 boxes, I need to still align them together. So what I want to do is select the move command, grab the box, and begin by locking the red axis. So once I start moving it, if I press the thumb pad, it locks that axis, shown by a red circle on the right thumb pad, which allows me to wave it back and forth loosely, knowing that it's still on the red axis. So using the snappy draggy feature, I'm going to align it with the middle of the column. Again, I'll do it on the green axis, and I'll snap it to the center. The thumb pad on the right allows me to reactivate the tool quickly. So I can grab the object, lock it to the axis, and move it to the center, and move on to the next side. Once you do this a few times, you get very fast at it. So I'm going to speed this up right now, and I'm going to select the rest of the column and bring it to the end piece so I can begin to array them across the entire portico. So aligning it to the left corner, I'm going to take out the array command and click the center and then align to the center. And just by bringing my cursor to the right, the rest of the columns will populate. Now by selecting all, by holding down the trigger, I can copy with the center to the center, again locking the axes, and it's as simple as that.